إلى يوم الدين وبعد سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما وعملا يقربنا إليك يا رب العالمين اللهم افتح لنا فتوح العارفين ووفقنا توفيق الصالحين لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي اللهم إني أعوذ بك من أن أضل أو ضل أزل أو زل أظلم أو أظلم أجهل أو يجهل علي رب يسر ولا تعسر وتمم بالخير وبك نستعين يا فتاح Amen. Honorable elders, dear respected brothers and sisters in Islam, يقول الله سبحانه وتعالى في القرآن المجيد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا قوا أنفسكم وأهليكم نارا وقودها الناس والحجارة عليها ملائكة غلاظ شداد لا يعصون الله ما أمرهم ويفعلون ما يؤمرون صدق الله العظيم. Honorable elders and brothers and sisters, the concerns and the list of crises, if we were to put together, that address, generally speaking, all communities and demand the attention and urgent deliberation, there could be many things that a person could think of given the time that we live in and the concerns that you and I have. But something that is, as a matter of fact, in a very alarming manner, demanding our immediate attention to pay attention to, is two things I could say in the list of many things that we may find to talk about, to address, to discuss, and to pay attention to. And those two things is the first, of course, is the crisis in marriages. If it's not affecting all, many of us in different ways facing this. And the second concern is the concern to rear and raise the child and our children in an Islamic manner, to give them the good education and good tarbiyah. These are the two crises and concerns, brothers and sisters, are of the top most priority at the moment in our time. And if I were to say that the issue with respect to the marital conflicts and crisis is also the result of the first one, which is the lack of tarbiyat and ta'aleem of the children, because it is interconnected and contingent upon that. We see this as a reaction and result of the first one. Because if a person who is being reared and raised properly, given the proper education and ta'aleem and tarbiyah and tazkiyah, all of these things go hand in hand in Islam. It is not just the education, it is not just the tarbiyah, it is also, along with the tazkiyah, the internal and external change that a person needs to bring in his life. When all of these things come together, then that really shapes and forms the personality of the person, from the very core of oneself to the very external manifestation of the personality. So these are the two areas that are really in great concern and require a lot of attention. And I want to focus today on the second one, which is the tarbiyat and ta'aleem of the children, raising our children, in an Islamic way and giving them the religious education. This issue of raising the child in our time is really something that has affected all communities across. It is not just us as Muslims are grappling with this and having issues with that. Rather, even other communities, they also have in some ways, if not all, issues and serious concerns about that. But the question is, why is it that the global culture has brought this crisis upon the humanity at large? The answer is very simple. Those of us who are old enough, in 60s and 70s, the time that you lived in was very different. There was an external family and social support to maintain those values that you were being taught and imparted. But now that has changed. This is why if you communicate with even Canadians, Christians, or even people of certain secular values, they also have these issues that their children are not being very nice, not being very obedient, not being very respectful, because the environment around them is not conducive to what you expect from them to be, what you want them to be. And it is for this reason each community and every community is going through the same crisis in different forms and shapes, of course, as you and I have as a concern. But for us, dear brothers and sisters, as Muslims, it is a lot more serious, because we, before anything and everything else, is Muslim. And when we are Muslims, our religion requires of us to take certain deliberations to make sure that not us, even our children and in the future generation remain as Muslims. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, in one of the narrations, he said, "Inna awladakum min atyabi rizqikum." He said, your children are the best of your earnings. Your children are the best of your earnings. And what does it mean that your children are the best of your earnings? Because they are your true capital. They are your true investment. They are your true savings. Because you have to understand that anything else that you earn in the dunya and then you invest your time and money and energy in, everything will vanish and will come to an end, will come and go. There is no stability and permanence to that. But it is this, you have to understand, in that very long and tall and high erected wall, if I were to use this as an example, you are one brick upon which going to be placed many other bricks to build the foundation and the civilization of humanity. Imagine whatever you contribute today and educate and impart, even 10 generations down the road and 20 generations down the road, still it will have in some ways the impact of what you do, what you contribute today, what you teach them today. Because all of them are like interconnected, interdependent. We are, generally speaking, as a result of the tarbiyat and ta'aleem of our parents. And what we give to our children, they will also take that with them and will grow and will have that as part of themselves. So this is why we need to understand the severity and seriousness of this matter, that what we impart in terms of the ta'aleem and the tarbiyat and the tazkiyah, it is going to stay for the longest time that you can imagine. And it is going to shape not just your children, but also your future generation. And that is the vision that we should need to have, and we should need to work for, and accordingly plan things that are going to really impact in the best manner possible for the generations to come. And that's why Rasulullah ﷺ said, "Inna awladakum min atyabi rizqikum," that your children are the best of your earnings. It is here that you should really exert. It is here you should really focus. It is here that you should really invest. It is this that you should prioritize over anything else. Because this is going to make you a person of honor or disgrace, both in dunya and akhirah. And much of the crises and problems that we see around is not, because it is the humans who bring that. It is the human who produce that. It is the human who really bring about all of the positive and the negative. Time is the same, but it is actually the people have changed. As a result, we see things have also changed. And that is at the crux of the matter. And therefore, we need to understand, which we have failed to understand, the severity of this matter. We came to this part of the world, having many of our great values and teachings and tarbiyat and ta'aleem, but many of us, I'm sorry to say this, we have failed to maintain and retain successfully, to be able to make that as part of our personality and our family and future generation. We have given up many of those things that we had come with because of the environment around us. You can compromise certain things, but you cannot compromise all the things that you have. Because if that is the case, then the loss will be ours. And that loss is something that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَذَلِكَ الْخُسْرَانُ الْمُبِينُ. That is the greatest of the loss the person will face. Because children and others, because as Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the tafsir of the ayat that I have recited before you, قُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ وَأَهْلِيكُمْ نَارًا, that guard yourself and your family members against the fire of Jahannam. In the tafsir of this ayat we find that it is our responsibility to educate them and to give them the tarbiyat and to raise them as Muslims. So when they become like that, then they will become an honor and sadaqah jariyah for us. But if we neglect and if we fail, if we do not prioritize this, and we have other things in the list of our priorities over this, then the wizr and also going to be on the parents and the wali and those who are responsible. They are going to be considered as guilty in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all the things that they may do wrong later on in their life. And that is what ulama they have stated. That is why it is important for us to understand the severity of this matter. And this can be contagious from one person to the next, from one generation to the next. So laying that brick, which is going to be a foundational brick in your life for the future generation, is very essential. Because they say, in Persian language, if one brick is to be laid, crooked, the whole wall will go crooked accordingly. All the way up to the even Thuraya, in the heavens, because of that foundation that was not laid properly. So that is why it is important to understand this hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And dear brothers and sisters, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, of course, he has addressed this matter in one of the greatest details because of the necessity of this and the importance of that. The other thing that we can learn in light of the teachings of Islam is, as Imam Ghazali rahimahullah ta'ala and others have said, that our children, they are the trust of Allah placed in our hands. Our children, they are the trust of Allah placed in our hand. As we are sitting here, we need to understand what does it mean that, what does it mean to be a person of trust and to be trusted with something. Because this is another sifat that Rasulullah said, towards the end of time, the amana will be lost. The trustworthiness, this quality will be very scarce in the world. And people generally would appear to be trustworthy, but they would not be as such. So this refers to, of course, monetary responsibility. But here is something beyond that. And that is that our children that Allah has blessed us with, they are the amanat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He has placed in our hands. And that's why Imam Ghazali rahimahullah ta'ala says, every child that comes, he is like a clean slate. He is a trust of Allah, number one, that you need to understand that that is not really yours. Of course, biologically they are yours, but in terms of the responsibility, they are not yours. Someone has placed that in your custody so that you could do what you need to do. So that you could do what you need to do. And that is what the amanat is. Amanat that any time. This is why when someone passes away, we recite Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un, that the person came from Allah and will return back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because none of us even own ourselves, let alone our own families and children. Inna Allah ishtara min al-mu'minina anfusahum wa amwalahum bi anna lahum al-jannah. Allah has made this deal with us that He has purchased our lives, and the return would be paradise if we live according to the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we don't even own ourselves, let alone thinking of our family and children, because it is the amanat. So when we think of it this way, then we will understand what does amana mean. So amana is that someone placed something in your trust, has the right to take any time that back from you, but also has the right to demand from you to look after the way the person wants you to look after, not the way you want to look after, because he trusted you that you will be a person of responsibility to fulfill the trust. And if we fail that, then we have failed to fulfill the amanat. And the second thing, what he says, that the children that are born, they are born with this very primordial, pure nature, al-fitra. The fitra, which is very primordial, pure nature, that has nothing written on it. like a clean slate that has absolutely nothing, no naqsh and no writing, nothing like that. Now, whatever we write on it, good or bad, through our tarbiyat, through our ta'aleem, and through our efforts, it will be an imprint on the personality of the person and will shape accordingly. And then he says that if we have done the due diligence in this regard, they will become the source of sa'ada, felicity and good fortune for the person, both in dunya and akhirah. And anyone who contributes in that, whether it's a muallim, a teacher, or muaddib, someone who teaches them the comportment. So, of course, starting from the parents first. And conversely, if they do not fulfill this and neglect this grave responsibility that they shoulder, that has been placed on their shoulder, then as a result, they become deviant. As a result, they become corrupt. As a result, they become disobedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and along with that, of course, to the parents themselves as well. Then the wrong, whatever they do, the wizard will be on the parents, because they failed and they neglected to pay the responsibility towards this. This is why Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he mentioned in the hadith, kullukum ra'in wa kullukum mas'ulun an ra'iyati, one of the very famous narration that we have often heard this. And what does it mean to be a ra'i, a shepherd? And this example is something very profound to reflect upon. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam used this word and this term very precisely and deliberately for us to understand the concept of shepherd. Shepherd that looks after the flocks, and how tireless the person, the shepherd, works, and how he is alert, attentive, guarding each and every sheep in the flock from the attack of the wolf, and rearing them, looking after them, and remaining always alert and not expecting anything, because generally the salary that is paid to the shepherd is the lowest of the low, which means that they don't expect anything in return. Yet they are very diligent, very alert, very active, very sincere, and they are very much open to anything that is necessary for them to guard the flock. And that is the example Rasulullah ﷺ used and said, kullukum ra'in wa kullukum mas'ulun an ra'iyat. Each of you is shepherd and responsible for those who depend on them. And that is a very powerful example, and it is something that we also find even in the Bible being used for Isa alayhi salatu wasalam, that he said, I'm the shepherd. So generally speaking, we find in the hadith of Rasulullah, what did he say? All the Anbiya, what did Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam said? All the Anbiya were shepherds at one point in their life. Why? They have to be with those qualities to look after the ummah that really is to follow them. They depend on the guidance and leadership of the shepherd. So Rasulullah said, each prophet of Allah that walked on the face of the earth was a shepherd at one point in time in their life. So, and we are being the same responsibility, and the same concept is being used for us as parents, as guardians, to understand the concern of Anbiya that we need to inculcate in our lives. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, describing the worry and concern of Rasulullah in the Quran, لَعَلَّكَ بَاخِعٌ نَفْسَكَ أَنْ لَا يَكُونُوا مُؤْمِنِينَ. O Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, it seems that the people who reject you, who oppose you, as if you are going to perish yourself out of your grief and concern for them. This concern about the Prophet, Allah mentions about the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, with respect to those who he was sent to guide. All of us sitting here, in all honesty, ask yourself, do you have that similar concern for your own children? لَعَلَّكَ بَاخِعٌ نَفْسَكَ. As if you are going to perish yourself because your children are not properly Muslims, or not following Islam, or not doing things that they're supposed to be doing. Which means that Rasulullah day and night will be very much in concern. Unless or until we make that as a concern for us, we will not be able to succeed in our mission. So this is the example that Rasulullah has used. And he said, then you will be responsible for it, which means that you will be asked for that on the Day of Judgment. The person will be asked for his family members. And the woman, Rasulullah said, will be asked for the children that she was rearing them. That is why the role of a mother in Islam is very big. In order to fulfill that role, she needs to be really very, very pragmatic and very active and full of devotion, realizing that this is a very long, enduring task for her to be able to accomplish. It's not going to be overnight. And mashallah, generally mothers, they do that because of their compassion and love, the amount of sacrifice that they make. But it is not easy thing. And this is why it is mentioned in one of the Tanbihul Ghafilin that one individual came to one scholar and complained that my son is very abusive towards me and very disrespectful towards me. So the scholar called the son and asked, is this true what your father complains about? So he said, that is true. And then he said, but there are reasons behind. And the reasons that they said, when I was raised, my father was busy with other things. He didn't give me neither the good name nor the good tarbiyah or ta'aleem and etc. etc. So when he listed the reasons, then the scholar said, when you have failed in the initial stages of his development in the years to give them the ta'aleem and tarbiyah that you're supposed to, then it is only you to be blamed for yourself. Because what can you expect when you have failed to do that? This is why Rasulullah said, "Addibu awladakum." Make sure, and in one narration he said, "Akrimu awladakum," honor your children, wa ahsinu adabahum, and be the best person in teaching them the adab. So honoring your children means that you do not see them as burden. You make them feel that they are honored. You make them feel that they are really very valuable for you in your life. You give them that love, that hope, and that you make them feel that they are very special for you. With that, you teach them. Your teaching must be rooted in this compassion and love for them, that you only want the best for them. But if you are very harsh, very critical, very negative all the time, they will not see that love. So whatever you tell them, they will neglect and ignore. But when they see you that you really love them, you really care for them, and you express that through your words and actions both, and you make them realize that anything that you say, it is based on that. Hopefully that will make a difference. Ali radiallahu anhu, he said that a person, when he has a child, the first 7 years he should really play with them because they are exploring the world. They don't know anything in the world. And the next 7 years, he should be very serious about the discipline and the education. And then the following 7 years, he said he should be a friend with them. When you become a friend with them, they will come back to you for any issue that they face in life. Today, our children and our teenagers, they go to XYZ, people they don't know, people that they have met online, and share their concerns, but they are hesitant to come back to us to speak to us. Why? Because perhaps they don't feel that comfort, and they don't feel that connection with us, right? So that needs to be broken, especially in this day and age, if we really want our children to remain under our leadership. Otherwise, it's not going to help. And that's why, subhanAllah, all of the issues that I have raised here and discussed, the solution lies in three things, like I said: proper ta'aleem and proper tarbiyat and proper tazkiyah. And for that, we need to be very proactive. And of course, we have other priorities in life. Therefore, BCMA has recently launched, mashallah, a very centralized and very well-rounded educational curriculum that I, inshallah, wanted to touch upon that, but time is up. But this is the curriculum that is organized by the Abu Huraira Academy, and there are different masajid in BCMA that are offering this. So as our children have gone back to school, it is also a time that we also prioritize their religious education and ta'aleem and tarbiyah. And inshallah, the management will explain to you more about it, the details of that, as to how it's going to work. We really urge all of you to take keen interest in this, because the benefit will return to you at the end of the day. No one else is to benefit from that. Do not trivialize this matter, brothers and sisters, because I, in the community, serving the community, can see the problems right and left, from A to Z. Much of it is because of this. Much of it is because of this. You may see your issue as individual, but that is not individual. It's a societal one that we are facing right now. And we need to collectively work towards to solve this. And for that, programs like this will be a great source for us, inshallah, to educate and to change. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enable us and allow us to benefit from things like this, and may He help us to realize our responsibility towards our children, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect them from the ill and the evil of the society. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. Wa akhir da'wana alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.